ready to hop in?
Let's get to it.
All right, so I am really excited to welcome Lasalle Smith on the pod today. It's been a long time coming. You were actually one of the people when I started this podcast that I was like, I'm going to get him on here. And it's now episode 9, and I'm really excited to share your story today, to see kind of where you came from, how you got where you're at, and share some of your successes and challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very much looking forward to talking to you about a few things you know about, probably a lot of things you don't know about, and dropping a little bit of wisdom about where I've been and where I'm going.
Absolutely. So I guess just to start, I know it's probably a big question, but can you give us a rundown of all the things you're working on right now?
Wow. So I'm currently the standing creative director at Vocal and To Whom It May Concern, which is a advertising agency and their cultural arm. So I'm in Red Bull, working on some stuff for Weber Grills, working on some stuff for Wild Fork. Excuse me. There are tons of smaller clients that we have, but in my main days like Red Bull, Wild Fork, Weber Grills, Twisted Hemp, which is like a hemp wrap brand. So I'm always working in like the smoking space. Always been in the cannabis space. Always been in the tobacco rolling space. That's awesome. I'm working on developing my own app.
Okay.
That I think I told you about.
We talked briefly. You didn't give me many details, so that's what I wanted to dive into today.
We could dive into that one because that's going to be like my baby for the rest of my life. We hate clubs. Obviously, you've been to an event or two, and those are always a good time.
We do hate clubs.
We do. We really fucking do. I'm currently working on a new dinner series that's coming up with John Basil Tequila, so we're getting that locked in. I am also working on private jets.
Yep, we talked about that.
Private jets, so we can get into that as well. And not to mention that between my friends and my professional network, like things come up all the time, like whether they just be one-off events that I'm shooting, or people have cool projects and they want to bring you in on it or get your 2 cents on something. So it's a very fluid question, but I think that's as rigid of an answer that I can give you right now.
Right. What's the app called?
Hexo.
Hexo.
Hexxo.
Where'd that come from?
So once I tell you what the app does, you'll understand where it came from. But Hex, it was divided into 2 parts: Hex and then Exo. Hex meaning color, like a hex code, and Exo meaning love. So it comes.
Oh, that's cute. I like that.
Yeah, so it came together quite well. I mean, I had a list of like 45 names, and I'm like, man, none of this shit is fucking sticking. I was frustrated. I was annoyed.
Yeah.
And I just simplified it.
Hexo flows nice.
Right, it flows nice. The logo.
It's a bit mysterious too.
It is.
It sounds techie.
I mean, but it very much is techie in nature because you're in the app space, all right? And obviously, once you get into that industry, you want names that come off the tongue easily, names that are unique, and you want to have a brand mark and a trademark that people won't forget. So the other names were bad. They were so bad. I don't want to talk about them. But, I mean, half of them got knocked down because in the legal process, you vet and realize there's too many things that could be potentially competing with this name, and, like, you're just trying to do something that if you don't have a boatload of money, you just can't come and swing your fucking dick around saying, I'm going to take this name because every decision you make costs you money legally in some capacity. But I think Hexo was unique. The logo that I designed was unique.
You designed it yourself?
I did, yeah. And that's the cool part about when I started my own projects. Usually I have a lot of the tools already to get them started myself, whether it be developing a brand book or knowing the legal process. So I've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Just doing it yourself?
Yes.
Oh, hundreds of thousands?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I guess because graphic designers, like, they can be really expensive. Oh, my God.
If I had to outsource everything that I always fucking needed for anything, whether it be merch design or photography or I would have. It adds up. Like, at least over in my life, $500,000 to $1 million. Has to, because it's expensive.
Yeah.
But having.
I mean, as it should be. Like, pay creatives for their
right.
But if you can do it yourself.
And I'm all for paying creatives their rate. You have to do that, but I'm more for doing it yourself if you fucking can. And obviously, you have to ask that question of resources. You can't overextend yourself. Sometimes, because I know I could do a lot of things, I try to do a lot of things, end up burnt out, exhausted, and frustrated. So you have to know when to delegate and when to pull proper resourcing, because the only thing you want to have is progress. And doing too much on your own could very much have you in the same spot after you realize how much time has gone by.
I think that's the hardest part about being a good leader is, a lot of leaders think you have to be at the front of the group and, like, be the one speaking all the time, being the one making all decisions, which is true. but you can't fully expand the way that you want at the rate that you want if you can't delegate.
Yeah, and that comes with needing to trust people, and also understanding that your mind is not the only mind on the planet, and you'll take the weight off your shoulders if you actually delegate. It's one of those things where like, I don't want to do it, and then you do it, and you're like, I'm so happy I did it, and but I know that, and it's but most of the time when I do stuff on my own, especially for like the app development and whatnot, it's because to save money. Yeah. Because if I had $10 million off the jump to put into it, no, I wouldn't fucking do everything on my own.
Wait, so you're
it's
doing
crazy.
the app development too, like the CS?
No. So as far as like how I've invested my money so far and kind of spent my dollars thus far, all legal. I hired one firm to do the development, but everything from like the wireframe to the initial prototypes, the logos, to graphic design, to the brand book, even some parts of the legal process and the business organization process, like you have to take onto your own. But working in the creative space has allowed me to understand what it's like to form a good brand, and what a strong brand looks like, and what a fun brand looks like, and how you may be interpreted from consumers. But you just have to think through everything that needs to be done, and think through what you can do, and think what you must do. Right.
Clearly, being in a creative space is where you thrive.
Yes, it's literally where I'm the happiest.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the whole point of this podcast, right? Is like I want to show people who are doing things that they really love and passionate about, because I mean, in my opinion, it's hard to come by people who really care about the work that they do. And when you are someone who does that time and finds success doing it, I think it says a lot to other people about, anything is possible, especially if you put your mind to it.
It is. I mean, I think everyone at some point in their life has to make a decision about what they want to be. And
hardest decision ever.
And when I say to be, I mean, do you want to be happy? Do you want to be sad? Do you want to be hardworking? Do you want to be lazy? Like, to be and choosing how you want to exist, it's a tough decision to make. That's why most people don't make it super young. But also, like, I knew at a young age, this thing is making me happy, so let me just keep doing this thing. And my dad always told me, if you're doing something that makes you happy, just keep doing that thing. Just keep doing that thing, and it'll turn into something, always. And like, he told me that when I was like 6 or 7.
So it was early.
Yeah, and I think that comes with good and bad, because I had to learn the things that were making me happy, they were good for me, and the things that make me happy, they were bad for me. And they may have been fun, but they're still bad. But that comes with
oh gosh, we've all been there. Middle school is a treacherous place.
Yeah, but then you realize, like, you have to grow up and provide for yourself or for others, and it's a balance. It's an ever-flowing river, yin and yang, that's always switching back and forth.
Yin and yang, I love that.
Yeah.
I live by yin and yang.
I've had quite a year, so yin and yang is definitely something I've been sticking to, and believing that everything comes to balance eventually, one way or another.
Absolutely. Are there other creative? Like, is your dad creative too?
No, he's a numbers guy. He's in finance. Like,
you're like, not me.
But my mom is a hairstylist, and like she's a fucking expert. She's been doing this my entire life. We had hair salons in our basements, and like there are always mannequin heads everywhere. It's fucking creepy sometimes. But like, I've been watching her do hair for 28 years now, and she growing up was doing my siblings' hair, cutting my hair. We were in the salon running around. So she's very creative. Right. She's extremely creative. And I think that's where I got like the creative goofy side from me. It's definitely from my mom, and the more intentional business, kind of more serious side probably comes from my dad. But they're both extremely, extremely pleasurable and exciting, loving, best people you could ever ask to be around. So it was a perfect balance,
Yeah, that sounds like it. And especially growing up in that environment where you can have that mix of being business oriented, but learning how to be a creative entrepreneur is a skill that you need to build.
My dad was always like, be this, be this, be this. My mom was more so like, just be, and those are, I like that. And those are, it was a really cool balance. Cause anytime I'm down on myself or mad at myself, my mom would pull me out of that. Anytime I wasn't taking myself wasn't taking myself serious enough, my dad would be like, hey, get into that. So it was always a tug of war, but it's like, it's the healthy tug of war. Right.
We all need a little bit of trauma in our lives to be good people.
Yeah, I think, I mean, everyone needs a little bit of tension. A little bit of tension is good for how serious you take yourself. Right.
So at what point then did you realize you wanted to take your career in a creative direction?
I was in college, man, and chemistry was fucking me up. I thought I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon.
Oh, I've been there. Oh, God.
I thought I was gonna be an orthopedic surgeon because I like bones and ligaments and joints and shit. Because playing sports, that was always like, I wanted to be the person fixing my friends' torn ACLs.
You played football, right?
I did.
In college?
I did. And I think I was in chemistry, and I'm like, yo, this shit honestly sucks. I fucking hate this. I don't like it. I'm not happy. I'm going to flip a desk. I don't like this professor. I don't like how the fuck we're talking to each other. Yeah. So I'm just like, something has to change. And I took a bunch of shrooms.
That'll do it.
And had a great day with some of my best friends. Yeah. You gotta take that out. I'm snitching. you gotta stop the cameras. But I was there with some of my best friends, lifelong friends, and I was sitting there in a creek with my feet in the creek.
You were in a creek taking
sitting
shrooms?
in a creek. I was in a creek just sitting.
That's the way to do
we went
it.
to Wildcat Den.
Never
Wildcat Den is like just outside of the Quad Cities, which is like Iowa, Illinois. And I was sitting looking at the sky, and I'm like, I gotta get into more creativity, and I was just tripping my face off. Yeah. And then I came out of that, and I changed my major to international business, marketing, and French, and that was.
Oh, so creativity, like a creative major, wasn't even really part of college for you.
I think having business and understanding business was gonna be key because I know I can do a lot of things for myself, help others do a lot of things, but understanding how a business runs is important.
Okay, so kind of switching gears for a second. You said, obviously, you played sports in college. You started doing a lot of event management in college. Yeah. How did you balance all of that?
The music festival, SLU Fest.
SLU Fest.
Yep, SLU Fest. I went to Augustana College, which is a small liberal arts school in the Quad Cities, and played football there. And then while I was playing there, my roommates and I came up with a music festival idea. Yeah, we were just stoned as hell. I think we were playing FIFA or playing like NHL on the Xbox in the dorm rooms, and we were like, what if we had a music festival? And Augustana was the kind of place you can go to, and if you have a good idea, like you can go talk to the president, you can go talk to the dean of students, like directly, accessibly. You know, like it was very easy to talk to the leaders because they wanted. Being able to talk to the leaders of a place is the best way to bring change to a place, you know, and like big organizations, big colleges, that might feel tough because you're like, I need to talk to the president of the school. And they're like, that's never going to fucking happen. Like, why would I want to go to a school like that, you know? But being able to do that, he was like, you know what? This is a good idea. So we worked our asses off. That's when I got heavy into learning how to design, but also be a leader because I had a team of people I was given because there were so many tasks. So being the director of marketing at that school was like my first taste of business and creativity, and I fucking loved it, and people always try to find reasons to say school was worth it. It wasn't. Like, forget my coursework, the fact that I was in a space where I can do that, that's all. That's my biggest takeaway. I can give a fuck about the classes I took. I took a few cool philosophy classes, like some classes that helps me learn to challenge the status quo, but the rest was just fucking school. But being at a space where I could do that, then we bring Vic Mensa, then we bring GoldLink, then we bring Smino, then we bring Sin, then we bring Charlie XCX, and then it's like keeps growing. And now it's still going. That was 2014. Here we are 10 years later, the festival's still going. Other kids are finding their passion. Other kids are like calling us like, hey, what should we do? I'm like, that's easy. We had the same problem the year number one. Yeah.
So how did you open the doors for those first few years as you're a college student? Like, when you're like, hey, I'm in college, come sing at our school.
Man.
What's your pitch?
JB and I, oh, dude. Yeah, I'm thinking back to how much work this was. We had our network in Chicago, so that helped a ton. I had a self-published magazine called Runaway when I was younger. That helped a ton. That I was designing in that while doing the music festival. See, like I said earlier, I always fucking forget something. I always forget
doing
something.
50 things at once.
So that helped a lot because I developed a solid network for that. So the first year we chose Vic Mensa to headline, and it's weird because you go to college and all of a sudden like nobody's up to date with anything. You know, like no one gives a fuck about culture, things like that. Like. They were like, who's Vic Mensa? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So we used to just play him at every party, and like at the end of the year, people were addicted to his ass, you know. And here in Chicago, we had been listening to Vic.
He's a Chicago native. Yeah,
hell yeah. Shout out Vic, that's my guy. And that was the first time I met Vic Mensa. And then Smino, GoldLink.
Just doors open after that.
Yeah, they keep going, and like looking back on it, I've created a platform along with JB and Danny. That's allowed us to give others opportunity to do cool shit.
Yeah.
That's it.
I love that. And so from there, once you graduated.
Oh, I mean, after doing that, employment opportunities, anything became a fucking breeze.
Yeah.
Like, I would interview at places and they wouldn't even look at my resume. They look at my website. Because they're like, look at what you've created visually. Don't look at these fucking words on this paper.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on what industry you're in, that matters. But in advertising and creativity, it's like, let me see what you've done. And someone that's been in there for years, that's a leader at an advertising agency, will know what that means.
Right.
You know, you don't
Results
have to explain shit to them. Show them what you've done. Yeah. You know, and that's like, the results matter.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did a little digging, and I saw that you lived abroad in England and France. So what cities did you live in, and like what brought you to live abroad?
In England, Liverpool, Manchester, Grasmere, Windermere, Leeds, Oxford was fucking tight. Did I say Manchester?
Yeah.
Okay. Stratford, Yorkshire, and ended in London. So on a map, I pretty much just went from north to south.
How old were you?
Right now, I'm 28.
Okay, so you did this recently?
I was maybe 18, 19.
What? What, were you just traveling the world?
It's me and a couple students, and we just studied it. We studied the English language.
Okay.
Meaning like English literature and Emily Bronte and William Shakespeare.
Right.
Like went to Shakespeare's house. It was fucking tiny.
Was this pre-college then, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I did my senior year leaving college. I did sometime in Dijon, which is like eastern central France.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
I want to go to South France. I've been to Paris.
The south of France is.
Everyone says Paris is overrated.
The south of France is like the closest thing to heaven that I've seen with my own eyes.
Really?
It's so beautiful.
I studied abroad in Sorrento, Italy, and a lot of people say they're very similar vibes. But
right.
I was like, why do I live in Illinois? When I was there, I was like, what am I doing here?
There are some things that I mean, America has a ton of things that are wrong, but good place to be.
Right.
But that's entirely privileged because there's some places in this world I would never want to live in, and some people don't have the choice. So you just be happy with where you are.
Absolutely.
And try to help others. But Dijon, and being in Dijon is like Eastern Central. I wasn't living in Paris.
Okay.
I actually didn't spend that much time in Paris because I was trying to learn the language. So being where there are no English speakers is the best way to learn the language. Yeah. So that was a blast.
So then having this global experience, like right before college too, do you think that changed the way you are creative and your vision towards?
Yeah, I mean, it just reinforced the fact that there's 7.5 billion opinions on this planet. Yeah. That's so many. And there are a lot of needs, and people have a lot of goals, and people have families, and people have their own little universes on this planet that need to be managed. But there's a way to tap into each and every one of those universes by creating something that makes people's lives easier. Being a solution-based person makes that possible. Being an idea-based person makes that possible. Because ideas and culture and solutions transcend languages and transcend skin colors and transcend all types of things. So if you create the right thing, you could bring people together and do things better for the world. But that's hard. It's hard to do. It's saturated. Everybody wants to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the business side of you where it's fucking dog eat dog and you gotta be an asshole. It's kind of where that comes out. But the creativity is always from a genuine place.
So why did you decide to build in Chicago then?
Chicago.
Here, right?
I was born in Dallas, Texas.
Right.
And when I left school, I had the opportunity to go to a few places, but Chicago was. I don't care what anyone says. If you read about Chicago, Chicago is going to be the fastest growing city in like the next 20 years in Chicago from a business and energy standpoint. Yeah. So I'm not saying I'm going to be here forever. Even the next few years, I might be out here. But like I have to always have a place in Chicago. Yeah. I'd be fucking stupid not to. At least based on the fact that I'm building businesses. And it's always been a great advertising city. It's been like that for 100 years. But obviously from a app standpoint, creative standpoint, community standpoint, diversity standpoint. Yep. I mean, the price of living is going to go up in Chicago, but like it's going to be an amazing place to be if you just plant those seeds now. Yeah. Like in 10 years, this podcast will be the biggest podcast in fucking Chicago because it's growing like that. And if you build it like that and you reach out like that, you network like that, then your ideas will grow like that.
So you touched a little bit about your community building interests, passions. I think a lot of people would probably view you as a connector in Chicago, especially for the creative industry. So I guess I wanted to ask you, like, why do you want to be that person? Why do you think it's important to create these spaces for people?
That's a good question. Why would I want to be that person? It's not that I actively chose to be that person, but I think photography has amplified my network faster than I ever could have imagined. So when you come across a lot of people, you realize like you might have the solution that someone's looking for. I might not be it, but I can give you a phone number that is, or an Instagram name that is, or put you in a group chat with somebody that will help you out. And that's the best way to see growth around you, is just give up the opportunity. Now, some opportunities are worth certain dollars. All right, so if it's down to that, maybe you mention that. But most of the time, people are just looking for a connection or a point of contact somewhere, you know. And it's like, why not? If that person is working their asses off and that person has a body of work that you respect, then why wouldn't you connect them with your people, you know? People that are anti-networking, anti-name-dropping, lifting other people up, like, find themselves alienated quite quickly.
I think Chicago does a good job of that too, because I mean, I've been to places like LA where it seems like obviously everything is very business oriented, it's very money oriented. And one thing I noticed about Chicago is you have that Midwestern culture still. Like, people are willing to say hi to you just to say hi.
Yeah,
and see how we can connect with each other, but they'll put your name in a room.
Yeah, it's a humble place.
Yeah.
The Midwest, humbler than other parts. But I've seen the best parts of Chicago in that sense, and I've seen the worst parts of Chicago. So as good as it is, it's also pretty damn bad. So that's why you have to just choose correctly. And I'd rather go slow on connecting to somebody than go fast. That all of a sudden somebody's disappointed and falls back on you for the wrong reasons.
Right.
So just go slow. Fill out the people that are around you, because most of the time people are just looking for a place to express themselves, be happy, have a good time, smile, and find good people. And nearly between me and like my fucking friends, like, we could probably provide that 100% of the time.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, still have to be choiceful, you know.
Right. So obviously you've worked with a lot of well-known brands and companies and people. What would you say your top 3 favorite projects have been?
Ooh. I could tell you top 3, but in no particular order, because my feelings on them change even when I reflect on them. I would say I got to work on a Super Bowl commercial.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
Recently?
I was like 22.
Oh,
I was
wow.
young. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is
Did they reach out to you?
No, I was at BBDO.
Okay.
And one of our clients had a Super Bowl spot, 60 seconds, which is quite a hefty amount of money.
Yeah.
But we went up to Toronto to film it, and it just opened my mind up so much about it was a life-changing experience.
Yeah.
And getting that at 22, I couldn't have asked. Some people go their whole lives to not work on a Super Bowl account at an agency. And it's
You
like,
did that at 22?
Yeah, and it was really just like I could have been placed on any account. Like, it wasn't like, hey, this guy needs to be on that. It just so happened that client was taking that step that year. So that changed my outlook on how big and grandiose things could be.
Yeah.
You know, I got to work with Birdman, Cash Money Records. He had his own rolling paper that was coming out, and the agency I was with at the time was responsible for creating their content. So we were down in Miami quite often with Birdman, and like he's, I can show you the footage and the clips and the BTS and whatnot. But it was just being able to work with an icon like that. Like, he's responsible for so much in hip hop, so much art, and so much inspiration I've consumed. And being able to just like break bread with him, be in his home, be in his cars, being on a private jet with him, things like that was like just
surreal.
Yeah, I'm like, this is cool as hell, and he's a cool dude. He's a cool dude. So I'll look back on that one and always smile. But Birdman, and then I gotta say Hexo, like Hexo that I'm creating now. I gave you 2 old projects. I could have mentioned the music videos, Vic Mensa. I could have mentioned more of the music festivals, the stuff I did at Lollapalooza. But like, I think it's important not to live too much in what you've done,
right?
Because what are you looking forward to? So right now, I'd say my 3rd project, my favorite project of all time that I've ever worked on, is the one I'm doing right now, and that's Hexo. We Hate Clubs is in there too, because that's something that I created. It's always going. So there's 4, because We Hate Clubs is that's my baby. Yeah. That's my little baby. But Hexo has to be Hexo.
Cool. So when you're working with these high profile people, it can obviously be a lot of stress, and stress can inhibit creativity. So how do you manage the two in order to stay at like optimal creativity level and have your vision come to life?
I think the pace of which I work through a stressful day helps me with the ebbs and flows of how productive I am. Because when I'm stressed and I'm sitting on my ass, I'm just sitting in that stress. It's like sitting in a giant tub of acid, like it's Breaking Bad or some shit. All right, it's like, but when I'm stressed and I'm moving my feet and I'm moving forward and I'm busting through these tasks as much as I possibly can, as efficiently as I possibly can, I feel better about the stress. And a lot of times when you're working on production sets, you know there's gonna be 1,000 things in a day, and you just have to go, just get the shit done. You know, like you'd be surprised at how well you make decisions when you're put under pressure. You know, and like you have to trust yourself that if shit goes south a little bit, things are gonna be okay. Like,
so the Meraki podcast, the whole point of this is to explore this concept of Meraki, to lead with soul, creativity, passion, and find meaning in your work. So how does this resonate with your own journey and dictate the projects you take on?
So that's a good point that you mentioned, because you may get offered a lot of projects, or you may be presented with a lot of ideas or a lot of direction to create something, and you can always do it, but how creatively and how inspired you choose to do it is always this feeling you get when you hear the idea. It's like people tell me something like, oh, I got this thing, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, like, and it is cool. But sometimes you'll tell me something and I'm like, yo, my heart is on fire, that's fucking cool, sit down. It could be at a party. I'm like, I will go outside and talk to somebody in the middle of a fucking party.
Me too.
If, like, I'm like,
it's the best party combos.
Right, I'm like, I'm not trying to hear that Pitbull song on repeat 6 times. I will go outside and talk to you about this idea that just is amazing. So it just, when I learned that when something really lights you on fire, you can't ignore it. You cannot.
Well, and that's the whole, I think, purpose in life, whether you believe in life purpose or not. It's like you need to take the time that you have on this earth to do things that you love to do, to create things that have meaning to you, because otherwise you're going to exit the earth and not have much heart to show for it.
And it's tough because it's like when things are a hobby, they're healthy for you.
Right.
And then if you're fortunate enough, you can make your hobby your living, which is great. But also don't lose that love for your hobby because it became a job. So it's like
the balance.
When you do something you love, doing it too much, I wonder sometimes can make you love it less. So how do you choose what's supposed to be your career provider and your life provider versus how do you choose what's supposed to be your happiness provider?
Ikigai.
Yes.
The balance between what you love, what you're good at, what makes you money, and what the world needs more of.
Yeah, and that balance. It's hard to find, but creativity is good for everybody.
Yeah, in any aspect. All right, so I have one last question for you, and I like to exit. I like to exit all my questions this way.
With the joint hit.
What advice do you have to other creatives and entrepreneurs who are passionate about storytelling and want to do it full time but don't know how?
So I'm gonna keep leaning on this, and people always tell you this, but your network is important because when people trust you, it's easy to find opportunity.
Right.
And the more opportunity you have, the more opportunities you have to be successful and do things your way. So I would definitely say network. Sometimes you're in positions to maybe have in at an agency or to go work for a creative collective that will easily allow you to hop on projects and beef up your portfolio. Sometimes you don't have that. So depending on where you are, like that'll dictate like the products you take on and how you do things. So if you're not the work 9 to 9, 60 hours a week type, I wouldn't recommend going to like a Leo Burnett or a BBDO.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not saying the people that work there are like that, but it's also like that will come with it. And if you can't at least do that, then like you won't even thrive there from an employee standpoint.
Right.
But if you can, you find your balance and you find your people there, and you always do at agencies like that because it's fucking cool, even though it could be weird.
Yeah.
And you create great fucking work.
Yeah.
But if you really got to be scrappy, like be resourceful. Use every platform, every resource you can find. I don't care if it's TikTok, LinkedIn, Glassdoor. I like whatever you put together the picture of your life and the puzzle that you can only design.
Right.
And it's like I could tell you what I think you should do, but some people's circumstances can't even relate to why I create. But I can say that if it makes you happy, go after it. And if it makes you happy, it will most certainly inspire others. And if it inspires others, you can make money off of it. All right. So that's how your life creates itself. When you pursue happiness like that. Am I being picked up? Hello.
Yeah.
Thinking about all these damn thoughts I have in my head.
Me.
About the conversation. Yeah.
It's like never ending.
Never ending. It never stops.
It's like that little voice in your head. Do you have a what is it called?
Internal
An internal monologue?
I promise you, it is the most entertaining monologue of any conversation I have in any day. The conversations I have with myself.
You know, some people don't have one.
That's fucking weird. It's like
they're like, I think in pictures. Like, wait, how?
Right, but they're not saying they have a photographic memory. They're saying they think in pictures. I don't know what that means.
Like, you don't hear a voice in your head. They don't, like, you can't. Like, imagine how fucking weird that would be.
You gotta take that out. I'm snitching.